Can you imagine leaving the city and moving to live in a rural place up in wine country? What would your perfect rural retreat look like? This is what I was planning to do as I left Mill Valley and purchased a place to build my dream home in rural Healdsburg. But with over 184 square miles of rural living, what are the different areas you should look at? And what areas should you avoid? Rural Healdsburg probably stretches over 15 miles from the city centre, so there's countless options to consider. You may love the idea of a rural home in Dry Creek Valley, but maybe not the price. And you may like the idea of Alexander Valley in principle, but be put off because of the fire danger. And is it possible to buy a home that feels like the perfect wine country retreat, but at a more affordable price? But even once you find an area you think you may like, you now have to consider where there may be, noise from vacation rentals or light aircraft, or a high risk of fires, and loads more besides. So that's why I wanted to create this video. It's really an insider's guide to rural Healdsburg that will help you avoid the pitfalls and identify areas that you might not have thought about otherwise. So if you don't know me, my name is David Hargreaves, founder of Modern Living Sonoma. In just 3 years, I've become a top 5 agent in Healdsburg, helping over 50 people from the Bay Area just like you. But you don't care about me, so let's talk about rural Healdsburg and why I decided I'd chosen the wrong area for rural living. There are a number of things to think about as you start looking at your options for a rural property. So let's talk about the top 5 things you need to consider. The first thing is, how far away do you want to be from amenities? There's a big difference between, a 10-minute and a 30-minute drive to get a pint of milk or go out to a restaurant. The second thing to consider is, how many acres do you want? Do you want just a little bit of acreage to give you privacy so you don't see your neighbours? Or do you want enough acreage to be able to go for a 20-minute hike without leaving your property? The third thing to think about is really how much you're looking to spend. The identical property can cost you literally twice as much depending on the area it's located. The next thing to consider is, do you want something that looks like the sort of, the quintessential wine country home, or just something feels like you're out in nature? And then the final thing to think about really is, how concerned are you about fire danger? Or how concerned are you about buying an area previously impacted by fires? These are all important things to consider as you start to look at different rural areas. It's impossible to cover all the different areas in detail in this video, but I've divided a map into 6 different areas and we'll take you through the characteristics of the different areas. So let's start with Dry Creek Valley. This is probably the first area that people think about when talking about buying a place in rural Healdsburg. And there's 2 broad options when thinking about Dry Creek Valley. Either you're going to be down on the valley floor, or certainly close to the valley floor, or else up the sides of the valley. On the valley floor, you'll almost certainly have quicker access to amenities, but it will likely be a little noisier, as you'll get noise from cars, both on Dry Creek Road and sometimes the freeway, as well as noise from farming of the vineyards. If you are interested in a video about, rural versus downtown living, then click on the link here. If you choose to live at the sides of the valley, you'll definitely get great views, and you definitely pay a premium for that. But there's also likely a greater risk of fire, combined with more difficult access to the property, which will likely be up a winding road and often a private road. There's no question that on both sides of the valley there are some spectacular properties. However, for any given property a similar distance from town, you'll likely have quicker access if you're closer to Dry Creek Road, because it's just a faster road. However, if all you care about is going for a cycle from your house, I'd definitely choose West Dry Creek Road, because it has to be one of the prettiest cycling routes in Sonoma County. The next area I want to talk about is on the west side of Healdsburg City, just outside the city limits. This is an area which includes Chiquita Road, which runs from the north side of town up to Lytton Springs Road. In this area, I've also included a whole network of roads that run north from West Side Road, immediately west of the freeway. The homes in this area tend to be on smaller lots and do not typically have an agricultural zoning. When I'm asked, where the best places are to find a home that would be possible to vacation rent, this is definitely one of the areas I often direct people to. Many of the homes here are less than $2 million and have rural residential zoning, which makes them eligible to apply for a vacation rental permit. The challenge with some of these homes on the roads, such as West North Street and West Matheson Street, is that you can quite often get a lot of freeway noise if you're near with a freeway. That being said, on the west side of these streets, there are some amazing properties that are close to, Dry Creek itself. Also included in this area, I'd include the south end of Dry Creek Road, which also has properties that are the right zoning to be eligible for a vacation rental permit, if that's what you're looking for. And at the same time, they're literally just minutes to the city. One of my favourite rural roads is Chiquita Road. For me, it has the great rural feel without feeling like, you're out in the middle of nowhere, but it is just a short drive to town. Again, the properties here are not typically huge estate properties, but many of them are in a very private setting on at least an acre. Some of them certainly fit the bill as sort of the perfect wine country home, with hobby vineyard and views. Another iconic location is Alexander Valley, famous for its Cabernet Sauvignon and home to, Silver Oak Winery, which I'm sure is a winery that you've heard of. This is definitely a premium location. Unfortunately, very few homes ever come on the market in this area, so when they do, they're definitely sought after. As you head out of Healdsburg on Alexander Valley Road, there are definitely some smaller homes, but then as you head further out on Highway 128, you'll see some amazing idyllic homes right down on the valley floor. There's also some amazing places up on the sides of the valley, and also as you head up Pine Flat Road. One of my favourite roads is West Soda Rock Road, which is stunning and is not too far from town. Over the past few years, I can't actually think of that many houses that have come up for sale in this area. One of my favourites was 6400 Red Winery Road, which is a new build home, which was just stunning. And it was a really quiet area as you head towards Guerneville. This property sold for 3.8 million, and that was a couple of years ago now. Another home which is in this great area currently for sale is 2225 Wilson Road. This is actually a Lindell prefab home being sold by a couple who live in Mill Valley, which is definitely worth checking out. Further out in Alexander Valley is Chalk Hill Road. This is an area that is just stunning, but it's just that bit further out of town. Unfortunately, this area was badly impacted by the fires in 2017 with the Sonoma Complex fire and also in the 2019 Kincaid fire. I often get asked if this means it's less vulnerable to the next fire. I think it's just impossible to say. I think it depends on how you feel about it. This is the area that I actually purchased a property with a view to knocking it down and building my own dream home. This was long before the first fires and before I became an agent even and know what I know now. For us, the reason we decided against it was because we realised we didn't want to be so far from town. It's only 25 minutes, but it's just that bit further than we wanted. And it's not really the lifestyle that we wanted with driving that far into Healdsburg City. That being said, if you are happy to sacrifice sort of proximity to Healdsburg, you can definitely get a lot more value for your money out in this area. Ironically, the further down Chalk Hill Road you are, the quicker you can get access to Healdsburg because you can get to Healdsburg via Windsor on the 101. However, it's the more northern end of Chalk Hill Road that's probably more prestigious and which also has the Healdsburg address. Now to the south of Healdsburg. As we move further round to the south, there are a number of rural neighbourhoods around Limerick Lane, Milk Barn Road, Byash Road, which all have the advantage that you can get to town within an easy 10-minute drive. This area isn't probably an area that everyone thinks about when they're considering rural areas around Healdsburg, but there are definitely some stunning rural properties here. As with the rural properties west of Healdsburg City, a lot of the properties here have an eligible zoning to be able to apply for a vacation rental permit. Because properties near Healdsburg perform so well as a vacation rental and yet are hard to find, there are a significant number of vacation rentals in this area. For example, there was a home that sold recently for 1.6 million on Dragonfly Road that is now an incredibly successful vacation rental. However, there are also a number of homes with vineyard views that are all, over $3 million. That if the same home was in Dry Creek Valley, it would cost, $4-5 million, with similar surroundings. The final area I want to talk about is Mill Creek Road. Unfortunately, part of this area was badly hit in the 2020 Woolbridge fire. If you're not familiar with Mill Creek Road, as you drive down it, it feels much more like you're in Russian River than in the heart of, Zinfandel country. The road follows Mill Creek for probably 8 or 9 miles. The good thing with Mill Creek Road is that the numbers correspond with the distance you are down the road. So for example, 1 mile is approximately the 1000 block, 2 miles is approximately 2000 block, and so on. Once you start getting past the 4000 and 5000 block, you can start to see evidence of the fire. In my view, the first few miles are definitely the nicest, as it just feels a little bit more wine country with some rolling vineyards. One of the things to be aware of in this area is the performance of the well. There are definitely some properties out here that have had wells run dry and are having to truck in water. Also, because of the fires in 2020, there are a number of lots that are for sale. It is one of the few areas around Healdsburg where you can pick up a great, 40, 50 acre lot for less than $1 million. If you are looking for the iconic wine country rural property, your first thought is probably purchasing something in Dry Creek Valley. However, There are a number of considerations to take into account. If you want something that could generate income as a vacation rental property, you're much less likely to find what you want in Dry Creek Valley. There are some other great areas that will have the same feel but have the added benefit of being closer to town, a bit more affordable, and potentially have some income flexibility. If you're looking for the iconic, prestigious, rural Healdsburg property, Dry Creek Valley and Alexander Valley are the two places where you'll probably settle on. If you are looking for a rural property or still undecided whether rural living is right for you, then please do get in touch and I can help you navigate the various different options. Thanks so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next video. Until next time, go well.